It is the first model introduced in the 2025 Shin Megami Tensei Devi Kids collaboration with Medarot S. This is DVC00 Makai Setsuna, with an almost completely new kit of Shoot Guard, Cooler Plant Blow, Assault Burst, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Stand Form, which reduces incoming damage when attacked. Now, as the first model spearheading the Debbie Kids collaboration, Makai Setsuna most certainly does not pull any punches, pun intended in this case, with the kind of support that he's bringing to the table, not just primarily towards shoot supports in general, but also with just everything that he brings to the table as any kind of support, as long as they fit within a very specific criteria that he brings to the table. Shoot Guard on the head part, not to be confused with the same translation for the defense skill, is a brand new support skill being introduced that combines the effects of Shoot Boost and Guard Boost across all allies. To explain it briefly, Shoot Boost buffs the amount of damage dealt from shooting attacks by up to 50%, and that spreads across all allies that have shooting type attacks equipped. So anything from as simple as a rifle to anything as powerful as Ghost Shot or Emit Shot, whatever it is, 50% damage dealt on top of that, period, no questions asked. Furthermore, the Guard Boost effect also buffs the resist stats, which are the leg's melee and shoot resist, by 50%, which means that while this is in effect, you'll be taking notably less damage, and you will absolutely see that world of difference that it makes by guaranteeing that you can keep the damage at low as long as possible. And if you pair that off with things that scale on your resist stats, such as, say, Hard Pile or Hard Hammer or something similar, then you can really start cooking with the kind of damage that those are bringing to the table. Cooler Plant Blow on the right arm is another brand new skill being introduced, which, simply explained, is more or less kind of a callback to Cheerful Bunny 3 having Heater Plant Shot, and basically it's in the same vein but as a melee skill instead. Simply put, Cooler Plant Blow is a melee attack that when dealing damage will also put down a cooler plant on the allied side of the field. While that plant is in effect, the cooling stat of all allies anytime they finish a heating phase and take their turn is boosted as long as the plant remains in effect. And since plants are relatively difficult to remove without specific skills, this gives you already your first notable boost when it comes to the kind of mobility and support that Makai Setsuna brings to the table. Not even touching on Shoot Boost, which, albeit is a little specific, or Guard Boost, which is a little more user-friendly. So between these three alone, you're already sitting at about 3 different stacks of positive support buffs that Setsuna brings to the table. Assault Burst on the left arm, and the last new skill that Makai Setsuna is bringing to the table, is another support skill that applies 2 separate boosts all at once. Simply explained, the Assault Boost part of it will buff the success and power of Scatter type skills. Now these are skills that are Scatter, such as damaging one part normally and then 2 others random. Examples include Napalm, Gatling, Giga Gatling, anything, or even Claw to a point 2 would also count in that, or Break Claw would be counting towards those specifically. Anything with a Scatter type effect gets an 80% damage and success boost on top of that, just for existing. Furthermore, Assault Burst also applies a stack of Heater to self and all allies across the team. So not only will you be getting a Shoot Boost effect, a Guard Boost effect, a passive cooling bonus when applicable, but also an Assault Boost where applicable, and a Heater Boost to all allies. Between all 3 of these skills alone, you're looking at a total of 5 stackable positive buffs that are in play anytime Setsuna is on the field to put them together. And given the fact that Cooler Plant does not immediately apply as a positive symptom, much like Shoot Boost or Guard Boost or Heater does, it can stack theoretically on top of everything else. So you'll be fully stacked with 4 positive symptoms and then 1 conditional anytime you're in cooling on top of that. Biped legs means that Makai Setsuna will have fairly decent coverage across all forms of terrain with decent compatibility, but his leg stats are honestly in that nice little mid-range of where you want to sit with them too. And a mobility of 921 is really nice, as this means he has a pretty solid start in the speed department without any kind of outside assistance necessary. This is excluding any kind of terrain support or Metarodder or anything else. He's off to a very solid start. A mobility of an evade of 15-17 is really nice though, as this means he can dodge or graze and keep his damage low fairly consistently. And given that Setsuna is definitely not going to be intent on dealing a lot of damage, he's going to be focusing a lot more on trying to stay dodgy and off the field as much as possible. A melee resist of 1038 and a shoot resist of 959 are kind of in that middle range bottom line zone that you want to sit at. So while neither of those stats are particularly anything impressive, it is kind of par for the course for what you'd expect from most bipeds. However, this is also not taking stand form into account, which basically mitigates a percentage of damage, which up to about 30 to 32% is mitigated right off the top to keep his damage even lower while he's on the field. And if you stack that with the guard boost effect from Shoot Guard, it's going to be pretty tough to take this kid down anytime he's on the field. In the armor department, he is fairly bulky there as well, with a head armor of almost 3,900, right arm at just shy of 3,600, left arm at over 4,000, and legs almost 3,800. So, while he seems fairly decent on his own in the resist department, he does make up for it with a pretty above average armor rating. And again, that is not counting before stand form or shoot guard come into effect to guarantee that he can keep his damage as low as physically possible once he has those buffs in effect. All this being said though, as a pure set score, I honestly have to rate Makai Setsuna a pretty solid 8 out of 10 across the board. Now, albeit a couple of his buffs are fairly specific, and this is why I did not rate him any higher, because the shoot boost and the assault boost effects that shoot guard and assault burst offer and require are very specific and kind of imply very exclusively what kind of partners that Setsuna wants to pair off with. Now, that's not saying that you can't use him with other things, because you'll still get the guard boost and the heater effects to everyone else that it applies to regardless. But at that same time, if you're going to be missing out on two symptoms that melee fighters or anyone else really can't even use, you'd be a little hard-pressed trying to find something else to fill in the hole with what he brings. But as a dedicated support, especially to shooting-reliant teams, he definitely makes his place very well known. And it honestly does give a little bit more of an incentive to use assault burst, and scatter type skills between himself or any other allies that he stands with. As mixed parts, for these same reasons, I do have to rate him just a little bit higher at an 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, even though he is a fantastic support, or shooting support, I should say, speed shooting support to any shooting type DPSs on a team, albeit specific, you are able to still mix a lot of these parts up to really make the most of the buffs he brings. So say, for instance, if you really can't find anywhere to use Assault Burst on, well, switch it up. Use another support skill that you could probably stack on top of Shoot Boost and Guard Boost on your shooting DPS team, and he's off to a great start. So it still gives you plenty of flexibility when putting teams together and the kind of support he brings to the table.